disclaimer before the video begins. I just wanted to apologize again for not uploading sooner. Ignore my dog. A lot of things have been happening these past few months, both good and bad, and I just need to take a step back from YouTube for a bit, for my mental health's sake. Life is a roller coaster, you know? Hope you guys understand, and thanks for being patient. Now, on to the video. Also, thanks so much for 500 subs! As I've said in my previous video, I completely forgot about the original reason why I wanted to review Understanding Willow, and that's to give my favorite character of the show some more love, because it seems like all of it goes to Amity, or some other character that's not really important. Again, don't get me wrong, Amity is an amazing character, and she's my close second favorite, but I feel like a lot of the fandom has this problem of ignoring a lot of the other characters and aspects of the show in favor of just constantly praising Amity. So I'm going to give Willow the love I think she deserves today. By the way, at the time of writing this script, Season 2 is on a mid-season hiatus. I actually started this script shortly after escaping Expulsion, and I ultimately decided to wait until the hiatus because I didn't want to upload this video and then immediately have that week's episode throw out something big for Willow's character. So after the show returns, if anything happens that's noteworthy to Willow's character, I'll probably make a small update to it in the form of a solo review. With that said, let's begin. Willow Park is one of Luz's good friends and classmates at Hexite School of Magic and Demonics. She's also Amity's former ex-best friend, but they're making progress of rebuilding their broken friendship. She was formerly a shy, misunderstood recluse, but later down the line starts opening up and becoming more popular. But a unique thing about Willow is her natural knack for plant magic that seems to be exceptionally well for most witches her age. With her rising up in popularity and confidence, she might just have the potential to rise up as one of the strongest witches in all of the Boiling Isle. Willow was first introduced in the episode I Was a Teenage Abomination. She's spotted by Luz as she's talking to herself and giving her a pep talk before school starts. Then we see Amity roll in and immediately start picking on Willow. It's clear that this has been going on for a while now, and this is nothing new. After Amity rolls away, Willow vents her frustration out, and she goes wild with her plant magic and thorn-filled vines. She gets Luz tied up in the mess, and she immediately calms down when she realizes. She explains to Luz that she's always wanted to be in the plant magic track at school, but her parents put her in the abomination track because it supposedly has better opportunities. And then she and Luz concoct a plan to get Luz into Hexite and to get Willow a good grade. And at first it works out well. So well that Willow's the new top student. That must have been one pristine abomination they thought Luz was. But then, thanks to Amity, their plan is eventually ruined and Luz is caught. But at least Willow got into the plant magic track like she wanted, and she and Gus have a new friend. Next time she has a major role in an episode is Season 1, Episode 6, Hootie's Moving Hassle. She, along with Gus and Luz, decide to throw their own moonlight conjuring after Willow feels left out due to Amity not inviting Willow to hers. You'd question why she'd want to even go to what's basically a sleepover her worst bully, but as we later find out, she has a pretty valid reason to.
I'm a sneaky sneakster.
Willow explains what a moonlight conjuring is, and she says it's best to pick an object that has special meaning or is beautiful while looking at some houseplants. And yeah, I definitely see how plants are special to Willow. She isn't really the best at a lot of types of magic, but she's amazing at plant magic, so of course she got a special connection with plants. Either way, they end up animating the owl house by accident, and Hootie along with it. They ride the owl house all over town, and Willow gets the idea to stick it to Amity that she did a moonlight conjuring and is a powerful witch too. But just as they're about to show off Amity, they get captured, and these demon chasers throw them off a cliff. What the heck? Anyway, while they're dangling off the edge, Willow reveals that she and Amity used to be friends, although Amity stopped hanging out with Willow because she didn't get her powers. So it now makes a lot of sense why Willow cares so much about what Amity thinks to possibly prove her wrong and try to be friends again. Because aside from Gus and Luz, she's friendless, which is honestly kinda sad. However, Luz reassures her that she is a powerful witch, and it doesn't matter what one person who doubts her says. And so, with some newfound confidence, Willow uses her plant magic to stop the demon hunters. She also takes responsibility for pressuring Luz into doing the moonlight conjuring and helps her clean up the mess she made. These two episodes let us know a lot about Willow. The fact that she's not the most popular and has low self-esteem, but she's still somewhat optimistic and she has a lot of natural talent up her sleeve. I also like how these episodes show that Willow is imperfect and she could do some morally questionable things with good intentions. It makes her seem more human and dynamic. Also, Gus is her only friend, so it's clear she, and Gus, isn't the most popular kid and is kind of a misfit. She's not the brightest star, but you can see that she's still a nice girl and her future is still bright. Our next episode, where Willow has a major role, is Escape of the Palesmin. Luz, Willow, and Gus are going to attend a grudge match between Hexside School and Glandus High. However, Luz realizes that she's wearing the colors of Glandus, so she goes to the Lost and Found to change and get into the Hexside spirit.
Oh, Hexside!
But this ultimately makes them miss the bus, or whatever that thing is, that takes them to Glandus High. Since it's too far to walk, they try taking Edith's staff, but they're not good at using it yet. They end up hurting Albert, and he flies away to where the Bat Queen takes him in. Luz, Willow, and Gus go into her nest and find the Bat Queen guarding Albert. The Bat Queen captures Willow and Gus in some webs and demands Luz go through some trials. Luz is put through trials, and Willow and Gus just sit there and watch. Really, guys? Willow, you can make huge vines and plants at the drop of a hat. Gus, you're a preteen prodigy in a high school. I'm sure you can do some type of illusion. Now, I suppose one could make the argument that once they break out, the Bat Queen will just capture them again. And you're right, but later she sticks her little bat babies on them, and this is really enough to subdue them? Yeah, I don't buy that for a second. But in the end, Luz gets Albert back, and yeah, this was just pathetic. This episode introduces a pretty major problem that I have with Willow that can also be applied to Gus. That's the fact that in some situations, they're forced to be weaker than they already are for the sake of putting Luz, and as we'll see later on, Amity in the spotlight. A good example of Willow not being hindered by the plot is the episode Really Small Problems. Hexside School is closed due to a pixie infestation, so Luz, Willow, and Gus are off today. Just so happens to be the day that Bonesboro is having a one-day-only carnival. Willow and Gus meet up with Luz and they go on a spree of playing games and just having fun. King, however, gets jealous of Willow and Gus, so he trusts Tibbles and gets a shrinking potion from him. He uses them on Willow and Gus, so they shrink down.
First I'm growing out of my clothes. Now I'm shrinking? Dang, puberty, you're the craziest coaster of them all.
Whoa, guys. Did I, miss a birthday or something?
Which puberty?
Then have to find a way to get to Luz while avoiding the craziness of the carnival. Willow especially steps up her game with her super plant magic to defend against the animals trying to attack them. They eventually get Luz's attention, but the potion then spills on Luz and King, which causes them to shrink down also. Tibbles then captures the four of them, and they're forced into a circus of tiny animals to fight for their lives. But thankfully, Willow and Gus both pull their weight, and they each play their part in getting the four of them out of there, despite King ultimately being the one to save the day. And the two of them walk away with a newfound respect and friendship for King. This episode is a perfect example of what I want to see from these two, especially Willow. Them not being held back because plot demands they be subdued for other characters to have their moment in the spotlight. Willow is an exceptionally powerful and talented witch, so there should be no real reason why she gets subdued so easily. And this episode also does a great job of having her hold her own weight while still not getting in the way of other characters being developed. Basically, Escape of the Palesmin is an example of what I don't want to see, and Really Small Problems is an example of what I do want to see. But that's just from the show itself. The fandom, on the other hand, is a completely different story. And finally, we get to Willow's very own episode, Understanding Willow. Since I did a solo review of this episode a long time ago, I'm gonna keep the synopsis of this episode brief. Basically, this is the episode where we get some loose ends of Willow and Amity's friendship tied up, and we see how these two were such good friends and how it unfortunately all ended. This was a really good episode for Willow, as she was finally able to let out her feelings and pain that Amity had caused her, and Amity was able to properly apologize. And they're both able to make the first steps to rekindling their broken friendship. Willow basically had some great development in this episode, and I really love it for that. The fandom, however, seems to feel a different way. One major problem that I've had with the Owl House fandom is that so many people are obsessed with Luz and Amity, especially Amity, and their relationship. Again, don't get me wrong, Amity is an amazing character, one of the best, but the problem is that the fandom is so obsessed with her and her relationship with Luz that they outright ignore other important characters and plot lines for the sake of just constantly praising Amity and Lumity. It's so bad that lots of people even ignored Willow in her own freaking episode in favor of praising Amity to the heavens. This is Willow's own episode, a character that has lots of potential and needs a lot more screen time, and you'll still ignore her. Before I blow my lid, I want to mention Escaping Expulsion because that episode has this problem too. While it might be one of my favorite episodes of Season 2 so far, this is my only problem with it. But before we get to that part, I just want to point out Willow's parents in this episode. We already knew from Season 1 that she had two dads, but here we get to see more of their dynamic. Since I don't know their names, I'll just call them Dad 1 and Dad 2. Dad 1 seems to be more large and in charge of the household and takes important matters pretty seriously. Dad 2 seems a bit more fun and relaxed as he lets Willow sneak out to help Luz. It's an interesting dynamic and I wish we can see more of them in the future. But back to the problem scene. Willow and Gus are stopped by abominations. That's right, freaking goat monsters! For a good few minutes while Amity gets to have her big heroic moment. Again, as much as I love this moment, there's no reason why Willow and Gus should have been subdued this quickly and easily. They could have been shown to fighting the other abominations while Luz was fighting the Abomaton 2.0, and while Amity was sticking up to her parents. But no, they're just held captive by goop monsters, and just sit there and do nothing so that Lumity can get their time to shine because plot demands they not interfere. And people talk about Willow being so weak and insignificant, but here's that development for you right here. It honestly feels like the fandom is like, Willow's so uninteresting, I want her to do something. But then when Willow does something, they turn around like, this is boring. What about these other characters that aren't really the main focus of the episode? I'm just gonna focus on them because I biasly prefer them. The fandom drives me up a wall with this! So, in conclusion, Willow is, at least in my opinion, one of the best characters from the Owl House. However, she has a lot of untapped potential that has yet to be discussed within the show, and I'm really hoping we get some more development on that. And hopefully we can get that without Amity or Lumity or any other characters being there to overshadow it. Because if understanding Willow and Through the Looking Glass Ruins taught me anything, it's that if Lumity is involved, then it's all the fandom is gonna give a damn about and nothing else. I really hope we can get a plot for Willow that's something like Gus's plot in Through the Looking Glass Ruins. A plot that can further develop Willow's character, maybe give her some new connections outside the Hexside Squad, show us a new side of her, and also touch upon her more natural talent. Maybe we could have her go on a solo mission with her Palesmin Clover and discover more about her powers and why she's so strong to begin with. But overall, Willow is still my favorite character, no matter how underrated she may be, and I can't wait to find out what her future has in store for her. Okay. Now I officially have 2 installments of my character series out. Geez, I really need to get out more of these. Sorry about the wait on the series, everyone. I'm just still trying to find my own format for the series and possibly some other videos in the future. I'm definitely going to start making character analysis a priority here, but first, I want to get something out for spooky season. I'm going to be taking you guys back to a huge aspect of my childhood that I don't think a lot of people have heard about. That's all I wanted to say for now. See you, peeps!